What's up, everybody? This is Lush, and I'm bringing you something that's a little bit different and that has never been done on No Jumper. I am interviewing my father. And my father is not just a regular 81-year-old guy. He's got an incredible history in the entertainment industry and with a lot of more things that you're going to learn about him. He's got a fascinating story, but not only that, it's to provide a little bit of insight into how I turned out the way I did, why I am the way I am, what's my relationship like with my family. People always talking, people always asking, and they want to know about my origins. They're trying to pick out any glaring inconsistency they can find, but I actually really love my family, and I'm very proud of them, and hopefully y'all enjoy it. Let me know what y'all think, and if you want more content like this, much love. No Jumper. No Jumper, coolest podcast in the world. It is your play upon a Lush Uno, and every time, I rock cities, I go out, I bring the Glocks with me, but every time is not like this, because this time I brought my pops with me. Lush Uno in the building with my father, Peter Hyams. It's an absolute pleasure to be sitting with you right now.
Well, it's always a pleasure when you're around. You're nice to be around.
Dad, I'd like to, first of all, you have the distinguished honor of being the oldest person thus far, or I want to say the most senior, because old sometimes can be used in a derogatory way.
Well, I am old.
Well, you're 81 years old?
No,
You're
I turned 81.
Yeah. So you're 81. I would say that makes you the oldest person to grace this channel by about 2 decades. And there has been several thousand people on this platform, so
That's very nice.
that's pretty awesome. The distinguished honor of being the only person born in the 1940s on the platform. So you got that going on. A lot of people have been watching me for years, and they see the way I talk, they see the way I act, and they make a lot of assumptions about me. And then when they find out that I come from an affluent background in a really successful family and have really successful brothers and really successful father and grandparents, and people start to look at me a little bit different and they get a bit confused. So I'm hoping that this conversation could provide a little bit more context as to why I am the way I am, and do I fit into this family, and who you are,
If you want a detailed answer, I will give you a detailed answer. I grew up in a theatrical family. I had a symphonic conductor as a stepfather. I had a Broadway producer impersonation as a father. My mother was a dancer when she was young.
Wait, grandma was a stripper?
No,
Okay.
not all dancers are strippers.
2024 is crazy. There's this thing called OnlyFans now.
This has to do with ballet.
Okay.
My grandfather was in this business. So I have always divided the world into 2 parts. One part is people who work so they can earn enough money to live the way they'd like to live. And the other is people who have to do something. And it doesn't matter. You just have to do it. I went to art school from the time I was 8. I studied music from the time I was about 11.
New York City, right?
Yeah, all in New York. There was never any question with me that I was going to try to be an artist in some respect. I was never going to be a civilian. And I tried to raise my sons, all 3 of you, 2 ways. One way was I used to sit at the table at dinner every single night and whatever position you took, I took the opposite.
Like debates?
Yeah. And it kind of built up the muscles that needed to be built up in terms of having a position and defending it.
As we say nowadays, standing on business.
Okay. The other thing is, I wanted to have my sons believe that they could pursue anything. So you wound up doing music, and you wound up doing a form of music that it's generational. It's just I'm too far gone to really appreciate it.
You hating on hip hop?
Yeah, I'm not a rap fan, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm from a different generation. You know, I'm from Joni Mitchell. I'm from Crosby, Stills and Nash. Of course, the Beatles. That's plus the form of music that I dove into and devoted part of my life to was modern jazz.
And we're definitely going to talk about that as well. But to your previous point, I chose music and I chose a genre that is, like you said, it's of my time, it's of my era. Did you, when I first got into that genre of music, especially, there's no like white people doing that. It was kind of strictly from the hood neighborhoods of the inner city, and it wasn't people like me or come from places where I came from were not like involved in the culture. But I took an interest at a really young age. Like, what are your like earliest memories of me and like my love of music / hip hop and all that?
Well, I mean, we go back a bit. I mean, certainly when you were in high school, you began to really become knowledgeable on it when it came time for when those after high school. You went to study music you didn't spend your life studying classically. I love the fact that you're in a genre that I know shit about. I mean, that's terrific,
Sometimes, like, it's just strange for me sometimes because, like, I'm the only person in the family with tattoos.
That is true.
The only person in the family that didn't go to college.
You have enough tattoos to go around.
I do. We could all share. We could share the tattoos. The only one that didn't go to college. I took a really like alternative path in life.
I have. I'm going to bore you. I mean, I have this philosophy, which hopefully you're learning, which is doing what you don't want to do well is what advances you. Because anybody can do what they want to do. What people do not realize is that when you are doing something that is glamorous, or whether it's being a film star or a filmmaker, 70% of doing everything is shit. And it's how well you do the 70%, that affects 30% more than anything in the world. And I think you're learning it now. I think you didn't go to college because you didn't want to do it, and you didn't do it despite not wanting to do it.
There's also the whole drug thing.
Sure, but that's a way of not doing something.
It is. It's like literally the tool for avoidance.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
I don't know. It's kind of like a chicken or an egg thing. I don't know if I'll be honest. I think the avoidance came first because I've been trying to. What was that? Everything okay?
She's gonna blow.
Good. All right. Um, yeah. Everything's cool though. Yeah. All right. I think the avoidance came first because I've been trying to not do things and find shortcuts for the entirety of my life. And I remember you guys saying when I was really young, it was a sign of intelligence. I remember being in therapy at a super young age, and like Nick's really smart. He tried, but that intelligence is like kind of a double edged sword the way he uses it because I would try to always find the shortcuts and lights.
Again, um, intelligence is something that you exuded from the time you were 2.5, 3 years old. Um, However, I grew up with a lot of really smart people. Uh, I went to school with a lot of really, really, really smart people. Um,
Yeah, you were in like the New Yorker magazine with a bunch of gifted kids when you were like five.
Life magazine.
Yeah, Life magazine. Yeah.
And then I got to do what I wanted to do, and I found some really smart people who worked very hard, worked like crazy, including the 2-hour cleanup and including the rap and all that stuff, which isn't fun.
At all. That's how good we get at doing that is what that's like you. I remember something that you always impress upon me as a writer. You said the most important part of writing is rewriting, and obviously rewriting sucks a lot of the time, and you don't want to do it if you're not inspired. But you kind of got to grin and bear.
Well, except the trick is when you don't really have an idea, you don't really know what you to write or what you want to write, or you don't feel inspired. Write then and there. Write shit, and then start fixing it.
Okay.
And fixing it makes it suddenly that you're writing that.
He's at increases y'all craniums. Listen up, soak up some game. I want to know, Dad. Do you believe that I'm the product of nepotism and my success is a product of nepotism?
In what way?
Well, I mean, like, you're a successful filmmaker.
So because I'm a successful filmmaker, you're going to be a big hip hop producer and artist.
People seem to think that's the way it works.
It's. I think you would possibly get that rap if you wanted to make film. However, what you do is so different. I have as much influence over the hip hop industry as I have influence over the ties.
Right. So you didn't like tell Drake to tweet me?
No, I didn't.
All right. So Dad, one of the main reasons like I want to have this conversation, I'm super interested, is because I look at you as like a Forrest Gump type figure. You've affected so much history and have been a part of so many different things going back. First of all, can you tell us about your grandfather, Saul Hurok, my namesake of my middle name? Who is Saul Hurok?
My grandfather was called the impresario. He managed and produced the greatest music, the greatest music the country had.
Before Jay-Z came out.
This is before Jay-Z. Okay. He managed the greatest musicians living before Jay-Z. And he brought he actually politicized, affected American politics because during the 1950s he brought over the Russian ballet.
And we kind of had beef with Russia at that time.
Oh, it was called the Cold War.
Yeah.
And there were columns in the newspaper that in the middle of the performance that they were going to open up their jackets and they were going to machine gun the audience and all that stuff.
Really?
Oh yeah.
They were threatening to shoot up.
No, they were not threatening. These were American columnists writing about that. These were the kind of people, the J.D. Vances of the world.
Okay.
And I remember.
Is that fair to say like a previous incarnation of a Tucker Carlson type character?
Yeah. J.D. Vance is running the vice president. J.D. Vance is the guy who made up the dog and cat eating people from
Okay.
the Haitians from Ohio.
Hey, Whack 100 told me yesterday that he talked to his Haitian buddy and they really be doing that.
It's too late.
But
It's too late.
anyways, but I think something really
I
interesting.
just wanted to say two things about my grandfather.
Yeah, about
My grandfather managed Marian Anderson, who was a very, very famous for her time contralto, and arranged for her to perform and have a concert. And the theater in Washington said no, would not allow her to do it. So he arranged for her to stand on the Capitol steps and sing God Bless America. And that's a very, very famous piece of film.
why wouldn't they allow her to?
Because she was black.
Okay, so that's something about Great Grandpa Hurock that I think is important to note as well. Beyond the fact that he brought, Baryshnikov and all these amazing Russians and ballet to America, but correct me if I'm wrong, he threw the first ever integrated concerts at Carnegie Hall.
Carnegie Hall.
In Carnegie Hall,
Absolutely.
Ella Fitzgerald.
No, it was Benny Goodman Quartet, and it was Lionel Hampton and Teddy Wilson who were part of the quartet.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Now, you said you got into modern jazz, but that's putting it mildly. You actually got to, as a teenager, a very prodigious teenage drummer, got to study under
Philly Joe Jones was my teacher for quite a few years.
and Philly Joe Jones, for those of might know, was the drummer for Miles Davis, among many others, John
I
Coltrane.
think, Coltrane played with Davis and this wonderful Cannonball Adderley.
Went to school with his granddaughter.
Really?
Yeah, all right. It was either his daughter or granddaughter, Alana. Shouts to Alana, yeah.
Oh, Cannonball was great. Actually, your mother and I were flying to Chicago, I think, and I was walking off the plane, and I suddenly found myself in the air, and it was Cannonball who had grabbed me from behind.
His paws.
He wasn't called Cannonball because he was little.
So you were a white boy, 16 years old, in the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which, was it always as nice a neighborhood as it? So it was a pretty nice neighborhood you grew up in. But you'd go all the way uptown into Harlem, right?
Yeah, no, I used to play in Harlem.
So you're 16, white boy, playing the drums with all black jazz musicians. Essentially the same thing that I wound up doing decades later in hip hop, going to the South Central.
I used to face that. There is a difference though. When I was in, I'm not talking about places that were, like this at that time the South Bronx that looked like Gaza.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. However, I am talking about, first was I went to school in Harlem. If an African American guy saw me walking down the street his initial reaction was, "It's one of the good guys."
So you didn't feel negative energy.
No,
Okay.
I felt positive.
You felt embraced by the black community at a young age.
As many people who just work and went, and then they were more advanced than we were.
So those dudes, they like to party. You know, they call it that heroin infused blue note jazz for a reason.
Yeah, I used to take Philly Joe home many nights where he needed someone to hold him up.
Was he drunk or was it dope? Was he on dope?
Both.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, this is the absolute top. This is the major leagues. This is the Miles Davis Quintet. And if that's the top, I'm not sure how much I would try for it.
Not too much of a future, huh?
No, not when a guy's drinking his bar bill.
Yeah.
At Birdland. I mean, that's. So it made me kind of stop at that point.
And you're still a teenager too.
Yeah, well, I played into my 20s, but not. I mean, I played with Lou Reed in college for 4 years.
Played with Lou Reed in college. We're just gonna cast this. I just played with the guy that invented punk rock for 4 years in college. One of the best musicians of all time.
Except Lou wasn't doing punk rock.
No, I know. And this is like 1927, obviously. Like
it was just after the First World War.
Yeah.
So it was just playing for parties and stuff.
So you're jamming out with Lou Reed in college. That's one of the coolest things. And any one of these things that you're saying, people. This is why people think that I lie about my life, because it's so rich with these crazy stories. But you're like,
I got a lot of crazy stories.
So, but here's the thing though. You were never a partier. You didn't like to drink and smoke or anything like that.
I was very fortunate to see how horrible it was. And I played with Miles, and I played with these guys. It just didn't look good, and it got in the way.
You don't think that? Because I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've gone back and forth. We've had so many discussions about creativity and being high or not. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. You're not gonna like when I say this. Like, my shit is doper when I'm high.
It's not a matter of liking or disliking. That doesn't surprise me. I will say that is a rationalization that is not new. I mean, I grew up in the 60s, so half the rock musicians, 2/3 of the rock musicians said that they were better when they were high.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you love the Beatles, and they went from "I Want to Hold Your Hand" to "I'm the A-Man, I'm the Walrus, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds." Yes, come on, man. The LSD helped those guys. Let's be honest.
I have no idea if drugs help people. If you saw that absolutely amazing documentary about the Beatles this year, and you saw Paul McCartney sit at the piano while he was talking, and he just started to noodle, and then I heard this chord that he played, and I said to Mom, "It's Get Back, it's Get Back," and literally in 5 to 10 minutes, he had Get Back.
Yeah.
He wasn't stoned during that.
That reminds me of when I saw Chop Squad DJ make the beat for "I Just Wanna" by Chief Keef and Mac Miller. That was just to watch, like, when you see like him messing around with the notes and then you see what it formulates. Like, yeah, that's powerful stuff right there.
That's also what I told you about writing. Start writing.
Just right, because it's gonna come.
Write shit.
Yeah.
It's the correcting of it. It's like taking, Michelangelo made the most beautiful statue in the world of David. And
David's got a little ass dick. I'm not even co-signing David.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
It's a pretty brilliant statue.
Not that I like dick or anything. But...
David even has, in terms of perspective, a fairly short bottom. His legs are kind of short, and it's literally because Michelangelo figured out that it was going to be seen as it was raised, so that it looks like it's perfectly proportioned.
And that's why he made his cock small. With that being said, so around that time, I'm sorry. Around that time.
Anyway, all I was trying to say before you got so obsessed with the size of somebody's cock, that somebody once asked how could he make the David, and the answer was he just chipped away all the pieces that didn't look like David. That's kind of what rewriting is.
Makes a lot of sense. It's like you just got to free the piece from the abyss, essentially,
and not be afraid of bad.
Right. Well, I don't have that problem. I'm pretty. If anything, I let too much bad come out, and I need to work on my filtering process and editing. But that's another conversation. But around the time you were 17 years old, you left New York City to go to college at Syracuse.
Yeah, I was 16.
So you skipped a grade, and you were young for that grade. So you damn near skipped 2 grades.
I graduated at 16.
College at 16 is pretty maniacal. And you're jamming with Lou Reed, all this crazy shit. And you meet a beautiful.
I was playing party songs.
And you met a beautiful Italian woman from the Bronx.
Yeah, I wouldn't call her. Yeah, she's of Italian ancestry, but she was
Italian American.
She was a New Yorker. It was very early in the school year, and there was a thing called a freshman mixer, so all the freshmen could kind of get to know each other, like ridiculous. And there was this huge line. It was in the gymnasium, and I was standing on line, and everybody was trying to be as cool as they could possibly be.
Of course.
And I looked, and I saw from the back a girl with looked like a very nice ass.
I was gonna say, you looking at mom's ass on
no,
grid,
no,
huh?
No question.
It was the booty.
Except what this girl was doing was scratching her left leg with her right foot.
Why is she itchy?
Because she itched, and she wasn't trying to impress. And I just thought, that's cool. And so I walked up the line, and I saw her face. And she was the prettiest girl in the world, simple as that. And I came back to my spot, and I said, "Who is that girl?" And the guy said, "I actually know her. I went to school with her." I said, "Well, what's her name?" He said, "George." And I heard a thud, and that was it. And I've been hopeless ever since.
That's crazy. So, you've been with the same girl pretty much your whole life.
Yeah, my memories are since I've been married, and then there's a dividing line, and it's childhood.
Yeah. And
it's 60 years.
What was it? I mean, obviously, besides that ass and her beauty, what was it about mom that
it was the unself-conscious act of not being so cool, and then to look and see how that she was gorgeous. I do remember early on. I didn't go out with her until because she had a boyfriend. I didn't go from home.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What was this bitch ass for?
I don't know much about him, except
Knocked up.
I kept my eye on her and it was just she was just in my heart, in my mind, and during Thanksgiving, she broke up with the guy, and that's when I asked her out. I also didn't have the courage to just ask her out. I asked her out when a girl who was kind of an intermediary asked her first, will she say yes?
You're a square.
I'm telling you, I was
It paid off though. The strategy worked.
I remember before that time, I would go up to the girls' dorm, which guys would do. There's a big lobby where everybody would, one guy would play the piano, and I saw this other girl, and she was very pretty, and I went, oh, I'm just so I'm the, and I took out my Marlboro, and I said, when should I get with the French inhale? Because she was looking at me. Yeah, so I did the French inhale. I went, this girl's toast. And I finally said, okay, it's time. And I walked toward her, not realizing there was a wall of glass between me and her. So the only thing, there was a boom, biggest sound over the whole thing. And my face spread like Wile E. Coyote, and I was with a friend named Louis. I would just remember saying, "Louis, scrape me off the wall with a palette knife." and for 4 years of college, I don't know who the girl was, except when I would see her, she would just fall down laughing. That was it.
Yeah. So, wound up finishing college and then wound up when did you want to become a journalist? Because you wound up getting a job with CBS News.
I wanted to be a documentary filmmaker.
Okay. Because you became you were the youngest anchorman in CBS News history, correct?
Yeah. I was 21.
Okay, Mom.
I don't want to interfere
You're okay, Mom.
if you're,
We are.
huh?
We're doing the interview right now.
You are. We are.
Okay, I'll leave. I'll leave. I just want to give him a kiss. I love you. I love you.
You look nice, Mel.
Thank you
Yeah.
for an old lady.
No.
Our
That's
what's her
Mango.
name?
Mango. That's Mango. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
All right. We're leaving that part in, by the way. My mom's too pretty. So, and he was just talking about that ass. So now you guys get to see it for yourself. But no, I'm just playing, but I'm not.
You are asking me about CBS.
Yeah. So CBS, you were. So how did you go from having that ambition to actually being thrust into that position? Pause. So, that's not really normal.
No, I really don't know. I think the people at CBS wanted some young person. I think the people at CBS wanted, because first I worked at CBS Reports, and then that was done. I think the people wanted somebody, when I was younger, I was kind of symmetrical looking, and
You're handsome.
they wanted somebody who would set a whole bunch of menopausal housewives hard as a flutter.
Yeah.
And then it was just at the time, and I got an audition. my father-in-law actually set me up with a program director, and they had me audition, and I thought the audition was for a street reporter, which is what I thought I would do, and I waited a couple of weeks, and then suddenly the guy called up and said, "No, have you ever produced I said, "Sure." And of course, I never had. He said, "Well, we'd like you to anchor and produce this newscast that we're going to start." And he said he apologized for the salary, which was more money than I ever made, had ever heard of. And I don't know. I think it was time.
And then, you out in Vietnam covering the war as a correspondent. You had a really, really successful, unprecedented run as a young journalist, and then decided to, I guess, pivot to what your initial ambition was, which was making film.
I wanted to make film. I wanted to make documentary film, and then I kind of found that I didn't want to write something that was accurate. I wanted to write something that was interesting. I didn't want to take photographs to record. I wanted to take photographs to paint. I didn't expect or demand that a photograph be accurate. I demanded that it be as beautiful as I can make it.
And that's the thing, Dad. There's so many aspects of your life. We can't even cover it all. I can't even get into the whole visual art aspect. You have a arc as a helicopter pilot. There's just so many twists and turns in the arc. But your film career is, I would say, what most people know you for. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you career spend
2 or 3 of them.
Several decades.
Yes, so what people...
Yeah, you made a few movies.
Yeah. It's a 45... I did it for 45 years.
45 years of filmmaking. Worked with some of the greatest of all time. Sean Connery, on down.
Yeah, Michael Douglas and Gene Hackman and people like that, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. How come you never, did you go to any crazy parties? People think like you were this big director in the 70s and 80s. Were people doing coke off of Meg Ryan's ass? What was cracking?
And bowls of cocaine. People were set in the middle of tables. I never saw anything like that in my life.
You were never invited to the cool parties?
No.
Okay. Does the Illuminati exist?
That's over my head.
No, I'm serious though, because people think because you're like a successful filmmaker that you're an Illuminati and there's like this Zionist agenda and I'm a part of it and
Zionist? I'm not a Zionist.
No, I know, but like, okay, so let's talk about that for a second then. Are you Jewish?
Yes.
But you weren't bar mitzvahed.
No, I'm not an observant Jew. I'm culturally Jewish. I feel it. I have empathy for it. I think there's a lot of stuff with protests that they're not well thought out. They're wrong. First place, to use the word Holocaust in terms of what's going on now is vulgar to me, because it's not. It's not the Holocaust. And
I don't know, Dad. There's a lot of bodies dropping.
There's 40,000 people.
Looks like an attempted genocide to me.
No, it doesn't to me. It's you have to understand that if you read your Bibles and stuff, Jews were there first. They have a right to exist.
I agree. They have a right to. Okay.
And the only thing that has to happen, it inevitably will happen, is a two-state solution. Without it, it's ridiculous. And I think Israel is. It's dangerous, bad leadership that has turned Israel into the bad guy.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say that because at least you know that Israel is not the good guy around.
I can count.
Yeah. All right. So, Dad, am I Jewish?
No,
How come?
because it can only come from the mother.
So, I get derogatorily called a Jew all the time, a negative, but I'm not a Jew. Was I? Do you think I feel like I'm culturally somewhat Jewish because
Well, you grew up with me
and like
and my mother.
yeah, and a lot of like friends, people grew up around but they also kind of made it clear that I wasn't like fully down with them because I didn't go to Hebrew school. I wasn't
Neither did I.
and mom's Italian, Catholic.
She's Presbyterian.
Presbyterian, yeah. So
She taught Sunday school.
yeah, so
When John got married, he had to do some Catholic conversion,
yeah, they baptized him.
and it was
It was like a back alley abortion baptism.
It was like a Saturday. I believe it was a Saturday, and Billy
When you say Billy,
Billy Crystal,
good friend of yours, Billy Crystal.
dear friend,
Shouts to my dog Billy.
because we worked together. Billy got, as Billy can, especially because of his relationship with the Yankees, he got permission to bring like 3 or 4 people, because John got married in Cooperstown, to the Hall of Fame, where we were taken backstage. I touched and held Babe Ruth's jersey.
Amazing.
That's unbelievable. Anyway, I said to John, during this conversion and all this stuff, you may hear a whirring sound. He said, what's that? I said, that's some of your uncles spinning in their graves.
Dad, would you say that of all the famous people and actors that you worked with, the one that likes me the most and fucks with me the most is Billy Crystal? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because he knows you the best.
Billy Crystal came to see me perform. He watched Delmont Crew rap. That I got a lot of love for Billy Crystal. In fact, my buddy Jeff used him in a bar. He said, like Billy Crystal, I'm silly with the pistol.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was fire. Okay, Dad. What was it like when you actually saw me get like a little bit of traction in my rapping and you actually saw me perform for the first time in my group and I'm with these guys from Oakland and all that? Shouts to Flex and Jax, my brothers. What was that like?
Well, 2 things. One, this fatherly pride. I never really told you, though, how in the 50s and 60s, there were, the 50s like was the Beat generation. Mm-hmm. And in the Beat generation, guys would stand up and deliver poems.
Right.
And this is how they clapped. And it'd be like that. And to me, rap is poetry. I think musically it certainly was not complex.
Well, you never heard Geeked Up by Fabo from D4L featuring Young Jeezy.
No.
Yeah.
But I heard a lot of Jay-Z, and I know it's great. You asked me what I thought of you. It's poetry. And in some respects, when you do certain kinds of things, it's extemporaneous poetry. And I was really impressed. I was impressed with your ability to reach writing. It's writing on your feet. Det var den kunsten där. The early stuff of a lot of hip hop was putting things down, putting people down, saying you're better than you, and that never impressed me.
I'm totally into that.
Yeah.
But it's not the only, obviously that's not the only, the braggadocious element I do identify with, because I think that it's like, it's motivation sometimes when you hear that, like, because whoever the listener is like having a myopic experience, or sorry, like a visceral experience where they're like kind of putting themselves in the position of the artist, whoever's feeling. So if I'm like, I got 10 chains on and I'm, driving my Lamborghini and I'm cooler than everybody, that makes me feel like I'm that, even if I'm barely paying my rent and, me and my girl are sharing a car or whatever. So I do appreciate that aspect, but I, like you said, hip hop is poetry and there's really no limit to what direction people want to take it. We're talking about age and talking about the fact that I'm 42, about a couple months away from being 43.
Right.
So I'm hanging on to that 42.
I hung on that to 79.
Yeah. You know how it goes. My brothers are 55 and 57. Right. My brother Chris, the CEO of Indeed, this is something that is also like people like to really make a point of when talking down on me, is your brother is the CEO of Indeed. He's so successful, and you're like this podcaster / like mid-tier rapper, like at best. How did you, like, what's up with the discrepancy? I think a lot of people don't realize how much older Chris is than me, first of all, but 14 years older. But how come Chris is so successful? Why is John successful? And why am I like the black sheep loser?
I don't think I think it's a ridiculous thing. You're not the black sheep loser. You're the black sheep loser. You're doing what you crave. You're doing what your heart and soul is in, and you're doing it well. And you're doing it well enough to be recognized and to do it in front of a lot of people. How much better can you get? It's just up to you. Except when you talk about John, you talk about Chris. I wonder how good you're going to be when you're 55 years old, because you're getting better. You're not getting worse. Black sheep, no.
Sometimes I feel like that, but it's like, I know that I feel like a lot of sometimes it's not imposed by you guys. It's me that withdraws, or me that goes off on my own, or me that runs away. And it's kind of like, I started getting in trouble at a young age, but I always felt close, even at my most distant. I always felt like love from you guys. I never felt like rejected by you guys, and I never felt like I was an embarrassment. But I did start to internalize that feedback from the world at a certain point. So,
well, you were always loved, as you are now. When you had problems with drugs, you did some things that were shitty, and when you did things that were shitty, I said, Nico, that's just shitty. That's all. Never said I don't love you. That's a different thing.
Nah, well, I appreciate that, and honestly, like, it is intimidating having everybody be so successful. That I think I just kind of, I feel like in my own way, and I'm doing exactly what I was supposed to do and what you guys want me to do, and as long as I'm out there taking care of myself, and I got my lady, got my spot, and I'm just trying to do my best,
Well, your best is getting pretty good.
Appreciate that. Now, Dad, so many of the cool things that you experience in your life, I want to touch on a few of them.
Over here.
Tell me about your relationship with Martin Luther King Jr. and interviewing him. What was that like?
Well, I didn't have a relationship with Martin Luther King. I mean, I was a television reporter during that time. Actually, Mom and I went to the March on Washington in '63, and I got to interview King. And it was an interview.
What was that like, though? I mean, being in the presence of, because you knew at the time this guy's changing the world. Like, you're in the midst of greatness.
When we heard the "I Have a Dream" speech, and I tell you, I felt the earth move. I guess that we, as a nation, we will never be the same. We're not as good as we should be, except we were never the same. You know, I had this weird relationship with Malcolm X.
Okay, that was going to be the next guy I asked you about, obviously, the legendary Malcolm X, one of my heroes as well. What was your relationship with Malcolm X like?
I spent a day with him talking very intensely. This was when he was against Elijah Muhammad. And then he called me up and he said, "They're going to kill me." And he called the next day and he said, "They're going to kill me." Put me on television. And I went to the people at CBS and I said, "Malcolm X said he's going to be killed. Let's put him on television." And they said no.
Who's they? CBS?
Yeah.
Why'd they say no?
That's who they were then.
They were the establishment, essentially.
Third day he called, and I said, I can't get what I want, and that was the day he died.
Wow! So you talked to Malcolm X the day that he was assassinated, and he was blowing you up for days. Was there other journalists he was trying to get a hold of too? You think?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully I wasn't the best he got. I read some stuff. I didn't read stuff about how he was fearful for his life.
Well, I mean, there's that picture with him holding the AK in the window.
Yeah.
I mean, that looks like he was in a bit of a situation.
I was so impressed by him, though. I was... You know, I've been exposed to the greatest musicians and the greatest artists of my time, with the exception of the Beatles, and the greatest classical artists that ever lived. Nobody was more impressive to me than Malcolm. And my other kind of extraordinary time was with Muhammad Ali.
Okay, yes. I can't even remember all this guy is so talking about Muhammad Ali.
I was at CBS in Chicago. Ali had went back and lived in Chicago. This is when he was stripped of his title and all that stuff. I thought he was a hero. And I used to see him. We would have lunch and we would talk. And I went to CBS. I said, "Let's do a story on Muhammad Ali in Elba. You know, he's in exile." They said, "Nah." And
That's crazy.
Well,
So CBS is shutting down Malcolm X, huge interviews where he wants to talk about how there's threats on his life. That you want to do pieces about Muhammad Ali when he's pretty much, like you said, in exile, and you're getting resistance and you're getting shut down.
yeah.
I don't suppose you want to put on blast the executives' names.
No.
Okay.
However, there is a very sweet ending to that.
What is the sweet ending?
On Billy's 60th or 70th birthday, whatever it is, Janice's wife said, "Can Mohammed sit at your table out?" So his handler brought him in, and he was at that point he was, it was toward the end, so hands were shaking and everything was shaking, and he couldn't speak. And Mom said to me, "It's your idol. Go, say hello." I said, "He won't know who I am, and I can't do this." So she said, "You're an idiot." She got up and she walked over, and she said hi to him and all that, and he held her hands. And she came back and she said, "Listen, you schmuck, if you don't say hello to him now, I'm going to hit you with a brick." So I got up and I walked over to him. He looked up at me and I said, "Hi, champ, you don't remember me, but when I was in Chicago and I got the O of Chicago out," and he reached forward, grabbed the back of my head and kissed me hard on the lips. I started to weep. He cried a little.
It's like a Birdman moment. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it was just one of the most epic moments of my entire life.
Yeah, I mean, Muhammad Ali, the GOAT. That's absolutely incredible. You were also close with one of the goats of football as well, Mr. Orenthal James Simpson.
Yes, I was.
And you got OJ into the film industry, correct? You directed his.
Oh, he didn't he do?
I thought
Yeah, Capricorn.
your movie was his first movie.
Yeah,
that
he
ever
was
did.
still playing.
Right. He's still in
He
the
was
NFL.
traded to San Francisco, and I thought the only way that I could deal with him was if I was a nerd and had no idea what football was. We were driving in the car, and he said, "This year I'm going to get all 2,000." I said, "2,000 what?" He said, 2,000 yards. I said, "You're going to get 2,000 yards in a year? It doesn't seem like much." And he got frustrated. John Mackey was a friend because I went to college with John Mackey. He graduated when I was a sophomore, I think, or junior. And he and his wife Sylvia were friends. So I'm making this thing, and John Mackey comes up and grabs me and hugs me hello. And OJ goes, "How the f*** you know that?" and so my cover was blown.
So you guys developed a pretty good friendship.
Yeah, we play golf all the time.
He knew the kids. He knew Chris and John. Watched us play sports and all that. You guys made 2 movies together.
One.
Just Capricorn 1, but you were made friends.
Constantly.
Wound up moving very close to him, but the time that you moved very close to him was a very unfortunate timing because it was.
It was the time he was released from prison.
Well, wasn't it before? Wasn't it? It was literally when
2 or 3 days before.
he got released.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was during the whole.
No, it was when released, and that's when 9 helicopters were flying overhead, and
Right.
Mom called me up. Really.
That wasn't the chase. That wasn't the chase.
No,
for
I watched it. Oh,
Okay.
This was constant traffic and 9 helicopters over his house. And Mom saying, "This is fucking apocalypse now. What are you doing?" Now, I was a jailhouse witness. I was a witness. I was a visitor.
Not a witness.
I was a visitor.
So you visited OJ in jail.
Oh yeah, and I saw him. I mean, I believed him. He stood as close to me as you right now, with glass between us, and he was shackled down like this in a chosuit, and he said, "I swear to God, I didn't do this." And I absolutely believe it. And
What the f- he's supposed to say though? Of course he's gonna say that.
he didn't say anything.
Yeah. But I mean, if he had been if you had an indication at that point that he was guilty, would you have stopped supporting him, or is it oh, that's the homie, I'm gonna rock with him regardless?
Oh sure.
Because I have homies that have killed people, and I still am cool with them. You know what I mean? Even though they're in prison, and
Well, if he was in prison, I'd be cool with him.
You didn't like the fact that he got away with it,
Yeah.
essentially. Okay. So when you were visiting him that one time, though,
I know I visited him more than once.
You visited him a few times.
So I was sitting with him, and while I'm sitting with him, and while he's talking to me, the Menendez brothers, Lyle and Eric Menendez, walked by, and I went, "This is out of Kafka. I mean, I'm not good enough for this."
So what? This is got to be 94. I want to say this is 1994, right around that time.
Well, we
93.
went to the funeral.
You went to Nicole Brown's funeral.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's one of the mausoleums. It's a lot of hugging and a lot of kissing, and then we went outside, and he was in a white limo, and he stopped and he reached out and he grabbed my hands and he kissed my hands.
All these guys kissing you. What the is up with
I
that?
said, "Gee, my sister." No tongues.
All right, yeah. Thank you for clarifying. I was getting scared for a sec.
No tongues. I'm Russian blood.
All right, there you go.
We kiss.
Italians kiss too, so I got it from both sides. Pause.
Well, Russians kissed on the mouth.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if Italians.
I think when Italians kiss you on the mouth, it means they're about to get smoked. Yeah.
So you sleep with the fish.
Yeah.
He reached out and he held my hands and he turned and he said what it meant for Georgiana and me to be there and all that. And he left. And as we were walking away, Georgiana said, "Well, maybe he's innocent because he's not a good enough actor."
He was not the best actor for sure, huh? But great. I liked OJ a lot. I still like OJ.
I
R.I.P. OJ.
About 8 months after he was released, John and I were walking Bubba, I think.
The Rottweiler, R.I.P.
Yeah.
Bubba.
And I just had this weird feeling. And I looked, and OJ had stopped his Rolls. It was a Rolls or a Bentley. And he opened up the door, and he leaned out with his arms like that. And I hadn't spoken to him or anything. And he said, "Oh, John, you got so big and all that." And he said, I live right next to you. You should come by." And I said, "Of course I will." So it was two people saying,
I'm not. I wasn't trying to kick it with OJ no more.
"No." Yeah, that was the last I saw him.
Hey, But I don't think people realize now because all the Menendez is a hot topic again because Kim Kardashian. I'm not sure if you're aware of this.
Of course, her father was the.
Well, she's now trying to get them released. She's pushing for them.
But her father was OJ's lawyer, first lawyer.
Correct.
Her father got the Dolph bag.
Right. So, but the thing that's so crazy is the most famous human beings in the world in 1994 were OJ Simpson, Lyle Menendez, and Eric Menendez. You're sitting in Men's Central Jail having a conversation with OJ Simpson, and right by you struts Lyle and Eric Menendez. That's insane.
With the hairpiece.
Okay, with Lyle had the hairpiece, right? Yeah.
With the hairpiece.
Lyle. But we were making fun of, like we said to the prosecutor, she just went like, "So Lyle." Another really interesting story of yours was, and I'm not going to say who the actor was because we don't want to put anybody
I won't.
on blast, so we're not going to do it. But you had an encounter with Kurt Cobain shortly before his death, and or you got to see him.
Yeah, I got this. Hello.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that. I'm not going to say the actor's name, but there was an actor who you were friends with and who was having a drug problem. I believe was in the midst of an overdose, right? We don't want to talk too much about it. Okay, you wound up taking him to the hospital.
I did the intervention.
You did the intervention, took this guy. He's a joint. We're not going to say who he is, but he's a well-known guy. Took him to the hospital, and at Daniel Freeman Hospital in right there, Marina Del Rey, they told you, what they tell you? They said the Cobain kid's here right now, and you looked at what was it like seeing Kurt Cobain days before he escaped and killed himself.
Sad. He looked horrible. He was in a ward. I don't believe he could have left on his own. And he looked as strung out as you can be. And, you know, anybody alive knew his talent. And I've seen it. I've seen guys who were so good, women who were so good, and they didn't last.
That's crazy. Yeah, no, it's you know what a big impact he made on me. I was a huge fan. So,
I mean, again, it's generational. Except when you lived with Janis Joplin, and you lived with all these artists who died in their 30s or 20s.
27, most of them.
Yeah.
Dead. That's what they call it, the Dead at 27 Club.
And it was horrible. It was horrible.
Dad, do you feel like when Chris and John grew up in LA, like the West Side and all that, like do you feel like LA was like a little bit nicer than it was when I grew up there, or do you think it was the same? Like, do you feel like the gangs and drugs were like more prevalent when I was growing up? Because I do.
You know, I spent so much time skating around cultures that were filled with drugs, and I don't know. I mean, certainly the people who made television and film were hardy participants in drugs, and there certainly were some gangs, although not where we lived. Yeah, it was probably nicer. It wasn't as crowded.
Were you like when I was like at, I don't know, middle school age and started like trying to like be a little bit more street and started like doing graffiti and things like that? What were your thoughts? Were you worried about me? Did you think I was like, what were your thoughts during that time of my life?
The only thing that really concerned me was when you got involved with drugs. That if you have a child and he or she starts slipping into that, I think it would concern you. Always thought you were incredibly smart, incredibly funny, incredibly quotable from the time you were a baby. Thought you could do whatever you want, and what you wanted to do was to get into hip hop, and that was fun. I spent my time playing a certain kind of music, and my stepfather would say, "That's not music."
He said the same thing to me too, my dad. But
and I was saying, I wound up not getting it out. I wound up saying, "That's not," and I stopped because I suddenly realized that had been said to me for years. So I assume your music form was like just like mine. We each were playing to a specific audience.
And you have Billy Joe Jones on the drums. We got Questlove on the drums. There's still amazing talent, consummate generational talents that and it's and the beat goes on, as they say.
I remember forcing you to listen to the finale of Pictures in an Exhibition.
Yeah.
I said, you just have to hear it.
That shit did not slap, by the way, at all. Was not slapping. I'm gotta be honest. Yeah. But no, it kind of slaps now, like in retrospect. But like at the time, I don't know.
It wasn't trying to slap; it was trying to move.
I think that's like an important distinction that a lot of people don't really understand. Dad, what are your thoughts on Sean P. Diddy Combs and the allegations and charges that he's going through right now? Are you familiar with this guy?
I'm quite familiar with it. It's. I don't believe when somebody's tried for something they're guilty. I really don't. And I've seen political ads where they're against the guy because he was a defense attorney. I don't like that. I hope it's not true. If it's true, then he is a truly despicable man. If it's not true, then he's not.
I think that's like the most even keeled, best response I've heard about Diddy to date.
What else is there to say?
Oh, everybody seems to have they have the most nuanced takes ever, but what you said is the truth, and especially in a system that, you know, we live in a country that systematically oppresses and targets black men, especially, you know, black people in general, especially successful black men. You know, seem to
that tape was pretty hard to watch.
Tape. Oh, when he beat up Cassie, yeah, there's no co-signing that.
Yes.
But I mean, you should be in trouble for that. But I don't think that's like a federal indictment.
No,
like
that is, he's not indicted for that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
He's indicted for something else.
Right.
And they say a lot of quote interesting names are going to come out of that.
Yeah, we'll see. But so you don't know the Epstein guy, right? You never met this guy. Did you know about any of that weird ass shit?
No.
Harvey Weinstein, did you know that dude was weird?
Oh, yeah. When I knew Weinstein, and he was involved in the film I made.
He was?
Yeah.
You worked with Harvey Weinstein?
They didn't work with him, but he came and wanted to see a couple of reels because they released it. It was a Miramax release.
Which film is this?
The Musketeer.
Oh, Weinstein was involved in The Musketeer. That son of a bitch.
Yeah, I was see the beginning of it. It's Miramax.
Wow. Okay, but you didn't really have to deal with his bitch ass like that.
I dealt with him when I cut it, and then he wanted to see whether he was going to buy it. It wasn't with Miramax at the time.
Was he creepy? Did you know the stories? Like,
no, he was just a bully. He was just this big guy who came in and took I was at Pinewood Studios, which is about a half-hour drive from London. He insisted on getting a helicopter. Yeah, and then he came in with a bag and a sandwich in the bag and a can of Coke, Diet Coke, and sat down in front of the Avid, and I ran a couple of reels, and then he said, I want to buy film. And I remember calling up Barry Hirsch and saying, he wants the film. Weinstein wants the film. And Barry said, be very, very careful. There's a bad sign of that. And that is that once they buy it, he says, you got to change it. Otherwise, I won't release it. So they made some kind of deal where he liked the movie. What can I say?
But like his reputation had already kind of preceded himself as far as like the creepy shit with women and all that.
No,
he was doing.
No, the creepy shit. No, the fact that he was a bully and that was pretty evident.
That something that I don't really know how to explain to people is, you know, I know a lot of people. I grew up with the kids that are around me that I went to school with. When I'm meeting a lot of different people, I know people from all walks of life, came from a lot of different socioeconomic backgrounds and all that. Why do you feel like the kids that I grew up with?
I'm listening. Sorry. I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm listening. Yeah.
The kids that I grew up with, you know, and grew up pretty affluent and privileged, like two of the closest kids to me are now dead.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we coming out so fucked up when our parents were great people and gave us so much and provided so many opportunities? Like,
you know, 2 out of 3 is not bad.
You mean 1 out of 3?
1 out of 3 gets you into the Hall of Fame. I got 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
So No,
You're batting 667.
yeah, that's Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
333.
That's also Hall of Fame.
333 would get you in the Hall of Fame.
Sure.
Listen, let me tell you something. Like more people than you know, I have spent my life not fitting in. I have spent my life also considering myself an abject failure. I swear to that and believe that. You're no different than me. That's all. It's circumstance. It's circumstance. Do what you want to do. Do what you love. And just do it.
But it's like, it seems like, like.
I had a mantra. I'm interrupting you. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I had a mantra. I used to say it every single day to Steve Campanile, the camera operator, who I love. We used to, like a football team, we put our hands on each other's shoulders. 1, go big or go home. 2, if it can't be fixed with a hammer, it can't be fixed. 3, come on, let's blow some shit up.
I like that.
That's it.
That's right. It's a good mark.
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
I just want to know, like, it's like you want to give your kids everything, not you, just anybody. You want to give your kids the world. You want to provide them with so much, but it's spoiling kids.
I don't think you want to give your kids the world. You want to give your kids, number one, the absolute knowledge to the marrow that they're loved. 2, you want to give them the freedom to be who they are. You have no idea of my anxiety about myself. I was a sprinter in high school.
What's that? What is it? No, never took her.
You didn't run a 100-yard dash to break 10 seconds. It was before the 100 meters. It was 100 yards. We weren't trying to break 10 seconds. We were trying to run it in 0. Making film is by definition failing. Because it's never as good as you want it to be. It's just failure. After failure. After failure. And you get up. It's not as good as it should be, and I'll make a better one next time. And I'll make it better each time. And I walk away feeling like there are people like Alphonse Cuarón, who I think is the greatest director in the world. And there are people like me who watch people like Cuarón and go, holy shit.
Yeah, but like you don't feel like you look back at the body of work that you've created and you're not proud. You don't feel like you're incredibly successful. You're in like the 0.1 percentile of all directors, let's be honest.
When you go to art school, you spend somewhere between 5 and 10 years training your hand to reproduce what you can see. Most people can't do that. I'm one of the people who had a proclivity I could do it. That's the worst day of my life. The day that I realized I could do it was the worst day of my life. I remember what the light was like coming through the studio window, and I remember thinking, holy shit, it's not about your hand. It's about what do you see. So I'm technically proficient, and I always wrote a certain kind of what I call West Side of New York wise-ass dialogue. But I'm not Cuarón.
I'm not lazy.
So to me, I'm not an artist, I'm an illustrator.
I think that that's very subjective and honestly,
Of
like,
course, it's subjective.
but it's. I mean, I think a lot of people would look at you as way more than that. But you know,
Okay, they're kind.
regardless, I mean, is there anything that would make you? Do you feel like you'll ever make another film again?
I don't know if anybody would want me to make another film again.
I'm sure you get occasional offers.
To be honest with you, there certainly is ageism in film. I don't know how many 80-year-old rap artists there are.
Too Short's getting there.
If I see Snoop Dogg on one more television thing, I'm gonna throw it at the screen.
We love Snoop. We love Snoop.
Enough.
Okay, so this is my final question.
Is it a threat or a promise?
What I want to know, Dad, what are your thoughts on cancel culture?
I like the team. I don't like the people who yap about cancel culture all the time, like Trump. Like every movement, it's part of a pendulum, and like every movement, it goes too far, and then it'll swing back the other way. So I don't like cancel anything, to be honest with you. I'm against canceling.
I think it's so we can't say retard anymore. That really bothers me.
Well, get over it. You know, when I grew up, the word was,
We're gonna edit that out.
you know, and or colored,
Right.
and then it changed to black, and then it changed to Afro-American, then it changed to African American.
I'm pretty sure it's black now, but I don't know.
Yes, but it's both. But you go with it. I mean, it's for good. It's not for bad. To me, to fight the intolerance towards people who are gay or towards people who have different skin is ridiculous. But I don't think you can. I don't think you can win a war with cancel culture with what's wrong by canceling. I just don't believe in canceling anybody.
My dad, love you so much.
Oh, I love you.
Any final words for the people?
I have no final words except what I told you at the end of the Civil War. A young student, a young college graduate who was black, wanted an audience with
Frederick
Douglass, and he got it. And he sat down with Douglass, who at that time was an older man, and that great mane of hair was white. And he said, Mr. Douglass, what should I do with my life? And Douglass looked at him and he said, agitate.
With that being said, Dad, thank you for your time. This has been awesome. I think the next one, I'm going to interview John and Chris as well. I think it's going to be a series, the Hyams family series, through the lens of Lush 1. But, oh yeah, this is my final question. Is there a difference between Nick Hyams and Lush 1 in your eyes?
Yes. Nick Hyams is his accent's a little different. He's more eloquent and However, Lush is part of his identity, so I respect that. You know,
Love you, Dad.
above you.
Coolest podcast in the world. Like, share, subscribe. Whew. That was awesome.
Okay, as long as it's what you wanted.
Mango, what do you think? Pretty sick?